Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Esports Rewind podcast. We got a new guest, a new permanent one. I am sure a lot of you guys expect this to happen. We will explain as we go, but that's going to be Hunter now joining the podcast in place of our team leader, Zan, who evidently, and I'm sure you guys maybe do or don't know this, has a lot going on behind the scenes with us here at Esports Talk. A very busy man, and so we're going to pull the rookie on for the podcast, and I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be here. I mean, I have a little bit of a different background than Zan, I would say, especially in gaming and what games I follow. And so it might change dialogue just a little bit, I'd imagine.
There certainly will be some changes, but it's a change that had to be made, and Zan definitely knew this was coming. He might come back as a guest star every once and again, which I will definitely welcome with open arms. And very lastly, for all of you YouTube commenters out there, listening on Spotify, whatever platform, if you guys do comment on the YouTube channel, from now on, every now and again, Hunter, at the start of every episode, is going to read like a top mean or nice comment. So, ready to roll?
Oh, great. I'm so excited. Yep, let's go.
Let's hit it. And this first one obviously has to be talked about. It's been a wild week. I say that every single podcast, but the Symfuhny stuff, something you and me talked about right away as it was unfolding, as there were so many responses, and kind of need to talk about it in more of an extensive space. If you guys have missed our videos on this, Symfuhny obviously accused of saying the N-word, what he denies and says was a stuttering. A lot of figures in the community actually coming to back him. Nade shot. Courage, the person he supposedly said it to, that being Myth. And then we have opposing views like FaZe Swagg, also coming from a very different standpoint. But obviously, to kickstart, kind of end of last week into this weekend, into this week as well, it's kind of crazy what's all happened since. But it was obviously a huge thing.
Yeah, and I was trying to think in my head. I feel like Swagg is actually the only person that I can think of that directly came out to kind of call him out and criticize and say this definitely happened.
Very vocally.
Yeah, and ended up backfiring a little bit for him, just to the degree of that, like, people got upset about it and, like, maybe shouldn't have been upset at Swagg specifically because he was just kind of standing up for what he heard. But it was an interesting situation. And we've talked about it before. I feel like he definitely stuttered on his words, and that word came out whether he meant to or not. But I do think intention's important in it, and I don't think he meant to say it in any way.
Yeah, and obviously this situation, I said it time and time again in the videos, it's one that we haven't come across because these aren't other pros or streamers we have talked about where it was very clear, cut, dry. They said it. They admitted it. Even in the moment, they kind of freaked out and knew what they had said. This is very different, right? There's so many nuances here. I don't think FaZe Swagg came from a bad standpoint.
Right.
What he was overall trying to say is that, people instantly were defending Symfuhny and no one was actually talking about this still being a very serious issue as to what a lot of people heard was that word. I do think Symfuhny's response was great, though. It was very, very well worded. And I do look at the kid, and I don't think he has those kind of intentions.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, and that was the biggest thing. Like, everyone who has watched Symfuhny's content or all the creators that, like, know him personally or, like, live with him were very, very confident in saying, like, hey, there's no way. Like, we know him, we've watched him, and, like, even people watching at the time, like, no one would stop to think, like, oh, did he just say that for real?
Yeah.
Because it's so, like, out of character for who he is.
And I'm only chuckling because I saw Myth's response, and even Myth was like, in the moment, he was like, you said what? And of course, it's comical from Myth's standpoint because he's probably never been in a spot quite like this one, as many people have not. Symfuhny has apologized. A lot of people apologized. And unfortunately so, even someone like Swagg was under fire for what Symfuhny had in this situation had done himself. So, certainly a crazy situation and scenario. I would almost say, luckily for everyone involved, there's been so much crazy stuff this week. It seems like this is going to be a thing of the past quite quickly.
Yeah, PR took care of that. Not really, but I think it definitely did. Like, the way he responded, I think really helped overall. I think it could have gone really south. He could have just kept ignoring it, or could have, like, been very blatant, been like, no, I didn't say that, and then just moved on. But he very much addressed, like, hey, this was serious. I am sorry, no matter if I said it or not. But I'm going to move on, and, like, I don't think I said it. I didn't mean to. I stutter a lot. And, like, you got to feel bad for the dude at the end of the day. Like, stuttering, and, like, he does do that every once in a while and, like, mix up his words. Like, I know I talk fast sometimes. I stutter.
Me too. I just get words wrong.
Right, exactly.
Like, I say words that don't exist, and I'm really grateful that I haven't stuttered and had a jumbling of words that sounds quite like that. So a very interesting circumstance, and we will see what happens moving forward. And some of the other big drama that definitely deserves its explanation because, it just involves so many characters. That being I would say, the Thorin, Call of Duty, OpTic stuff. We now have light reactions from the OpTic peeps, which was certainly interesting. In this situation, you're never going to have the full side of things because there are so many tweets, so many sides, and so many players and people now involved. In case you guys somehow are under a rock, it all kickstarted by Hastro and Courage. We have a video breaking that down. What we're focusing on is the Thorin versus all of Call of Duty.
Well, really, it was Hastro and JCap, and then Hastro and Courage, and then Courage, Hastro, JCap, and Thorin.
Yeah, you're right. It was JCap. I forgot.
Yeah.
See, I honestly just thought it was Hastro versus just LA Thieves in general, but Cap was the first one, and then Courage just was like, I got you, Cap.
Turn it on.
And then we spiraled into what was probably over a dozen Call of Duty pros named, big names as well as orgs like FaZe, OpTic, alongside LA Thieves. Also brought up, I don't even know how we really break this one down. When it came time for the OpTic responses, a lot of them kind of lackadaisical. It's kind of comedy. Some things taken too far, but no feelings too hurt.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I agree with you. It's so hard to keep up with like everyone's responses on this because there's so many different, tweets or videos or this, that, and the other. Everyone's different channels and stuff like that. But watching OpTic yesterday was a pretty decent way to see everyone in one spot for OpTic, which was nice. I feel like one of the ones we talked about the most, was Hex, because it was just so interesting to see him, respond to it because he'd been so radio silent on the entire thing.
The dude was in the mountains.
Yeah, he was fishing the whole time.
What are the odds?
Didn't give a crap, just casting his rod out there. And it was, I think I did agree with this point. One thing that really stuck with me that he said was about Hitch. Thorin came after Hitch, which later addressed that somehow that meant that he respected him more or something like that. I don't really know. But Hex said, he was like, man, Hitch is a grown man. He's a professional. He can handle it himself. And I feel like that's kind of how Hex operates. And it made sense to me.
I think I agree with you because up until that point, selfishly, I wanted a response from Hex. We love this kind of content, right? We've covered this stuff, and I think we covered it appropriately, addressing, breaking down how some things maybe were taken a bit too far, maybe a tad unprofessional, but all in all, it's banter, it's jokes. Some jokes go too far. What say you? But certainly to me, up until Hex said that, I was like, where's, come on, there were some soft jabs made at OpTic. I think, it wasn't just me.
Right, back up your boys, Hex. Come on, man.
Certainly, there were a lot of COD player tweets back at Thorin that probably could have been worded better. They had a lot of open holes that's poor wording. Ironic wording, actually, that Thorin definitely saw right through. So that's got to be addressed. But yeah, when it came to Hitch and then the OpTic tweets, I really did think that Hex was going to say something, and I was a bit let down that he didn't. But his explanation makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, it was interesting to see them just take such a stand back approach, and I do wonder.
Don't stand back. The mic's in front.
Sorry, I do wonder.
Take a stand back.
I do wonder if they kind of had a group chat, and maybe someone was like, "All right, guys, everybody chill. It doesn't really matter." So that no one what are the odds that no one really responded? I feel like someone in OpTic had to get their formal not saying anything. Come on.
I just don't know if they cared. Scump was left out of it. Dashy was left out of it. Envoy was left out. They weren't targeted at all. But I don't think they were prompting any tweets either. So it is interesting. Of all the people that you probably would want to respond, because Thieves guys were involved, FaZe guys were involved, Empire guys, no. But you would think that an OpTic guy would maybe slip up, besides Aaron, Create, or others that got involved very lightly. So maybe that is the case, but also that could just be they didn't care. It wasn't important enough to them. So OpTic lightly responded to the Thorin situation. At the end of it all, no matter what you guys think, it certainly was very entertaining. Visual video, but one that certainly piques my interest is the massive turnarounds that a couple creators had given some dramatic instances in the past couple of weeks. I'm going to be talking about FaZe Swagg, ironically bouncing off the Symfuhny stuff. I'll also be talking about NRG Huskerrs. And so I'm going to talk about, again, titling this would have been a nightmare, but it's great to see people who are kind of, in a pressure point bounce back and make the most of it. FaZe Swagg, I would say, was kind of under pressure for his response, the way he worded things around Symfuhny. I didn't fault him for it. When you put yourself out there, the risks. It was kind of disturbing to see all the responses he got when he was simply trying to have an open discussion about potential racial slurs.
Pretty hard though, like in a position of, I mean, I don't really know about this because I have 1,000 followers, but like in a position where you carry so much social media presence,
Dude,
and even just trying to express a very simple opinion about,
I'm too fragile. I couldn't.
Right, about like what you think someone else said on stream, and then he got so much backlash over that. Like that's pretty crazy.
And it's tough to stick it all in a tweet. That's why he took to his stream for 45 minutes to elaborate, because you can't in 140 characters. It's tough. Now his first initial quoting of the tweet was like, to another brother. You said that, so that obviously maybe could have used some more explanation. But either way, he bounces back because Toronto Ultra have a 100K Warzone event. Team Swagg takes home the dub,
Nice.
and often looked at, I would say, as not the tippity top tier of Warzone pros. All the ranked lists had come out the week prior, so he bounces back and wins the event after a hectic week. NRG Huskerrs, we talked about the Nickmercs beef, right? This guy, obviously they had their back and forth. We had so many videos. It made my day. It's a very easy video to do when you got two top names like that going back and forth. After their brief stint, he announced this past week, after all that, a 2-year deal with good old Twitchy Boy, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it is interesting. I saw that. Sorry, I keep leaning back. I saw that posted, and I was like, well, hey, good for him. Him and Nickmercs had their beef, both still on Twitch, both chilling on Twitch, and they're good to go. I don't know. We probably have different opinions on Huskerrs and Nickmercs. I'm a little more on the Nicky side of things, even though he was a little bit petty sometimes. But yeah, it's good to see, even if people can trash talk, that like some companies can still look past that and
because
sign them.
You have to imagine the deal was probably ongoing during the heat of
that
the
whole
beef.
thing, and Twitch was like,
are we going through with this, or like does it help?
You good, bro?
Like these are the things that you and me as rookies we don't know, right? Like does that kind of help your situation, or does it hurt it? We just don't. So it's cool to see that after all of that, they have now bounced back. Nick doing just fine. Huskerrs himself also doing fine. Some great turnarounds from some great figures out there.
All right, and then we've got something that I was actually pretty excited to see. We talked about it a little bit, but that was Riot Games announcing both of their lands for Valorant and League coming to Iceland. Finally, like, we get some announcements. I mean, they had Worlds. They did that really well. A lot of quarantining, but, hearing lands coming back in the background, we both get so excited. And we wouldn't even be allowed to go to these, but, we're so far removed.
And, there wouldn't even be, crowds, and we're just yes.
No, it's, just the players and, the coaches and, whoever is on talent there.
Yeah.
But it's still exciting. Just the idea of they could be coming back. We could be getting to that point maybe.
And then Mother Nature was like, nah, frick that.
Yeah. And then a volcano 20 miles away from, so they're both going to be in Reykjavik. And
nice.
20 miles away from that is the volcano. I don't know the volcano's name. Sorry.
Tyler.
Mother Nature. Tyler the volcano had some seismic activity around it, which then told everyone that, hey, this volcano is probably going to erupt at some point.
You know why he's tremoring? Because he freaking heard lands are coming. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
Right, so excited about it.
He's about to blow.
But either way, that's just the irony of it. And, this would be Valorant's first LAN,
Yeah.
This would be the first one. They're probably, stoked. If you watched Travis Gafford's video interviewing an employee from Riot, she ends up saying, Travis Gafford doesn't say it, that they went through this whole process, of, getting a group to find all these areas that are really good for COVID, you could have them here. Then they give a list to other people, and they go through that list. And so, it's a long process of deciding.
It'd be so strenuous.
They're probably so stoked for it. They put out these sick 2 videos announcing it, and then, a couple days later, it's Volcano.
Yeah, and especially because, obviously, with League of Legends Worlds being one of very, very few. We had some esports last year cancel their major events altogether.
Right. MSI last year was canceled.
And then even if they did have them, they were online. So League of Legends Worlds last year was amazing to see the effort Riot Games puts in. And now with a rising esport like Valorant, and again with MSI, of course, the number one esport League of Legends, it's just crazy to know that they were willing to do this and that no one else can even. And now there would be a downside if someone did get sick, and that could bite back a little bit. I don't think they had a volcano on their list of worries when it came time for trying to address the COVID
things
pandemic.
To deal with, COVID, players getting sick,
ice,
too cold outside, and they're like, volcano? Nah, I don't think so.
Shut up, Jerry.
No chance.
Not a shot.
Exactly. So it is pretty they've got to be so almost devastated
Dude,
about
Jerry
that.
right now is like, I freaking
Yeah,
told
right.
you.
One guy is like, I told you guys it was a volcano. You should have known.
I told you Greenland.
So I don't know what's going to happen there. I mean, like I said we covered it in a video, and we don't know what's going to happen at this point. Riot hasn't said anything. A lot of it would probably depend on when or if it happens. Because if it does, erupt sooner than later, then maybe things could be, when it does erupt, like travel restrictions will happen. There'll be a lot of restrictions in place. And so sooner than later would be much more useful to Riot, I would say. But who, we don't know. Like, we have no idea at this point.
Yeah, we will see if Riot Games can figure it out, return us all to LANs for both League of Legends and Valorant. All we do now is wait. And for the last segment of this podcast, I figure because we have a new guest, you're going to have a permanent role here, not on the channel only, but also on this podcast. I figured we get a little chance, a little short 2-3 minutes for people to kind of realize, where you came background-wise. If you guys don't watch our videos actively on the channel, then you might not even know. Some people are going to be
people still don't know who I am.
And it's slowly, obviously, going to, of course, unravel itself, and people will become very well aware who you are. And, of course, as you continue to make content, you came up here and you kind of joined the team in a very, very fast process. I think it was just over a couple months ago. We were looking for a new person. I had no idea who we'd find, and the interview process obviously was very short. And then you came along, and within, a week you had committed, flown out.
Yeah, pretty much. When we started the process, so I think it was back in like December when you guys had posted it.
Should we start by saying, I'm Jake, I'm 32, I'm originally from Iowa, and now I'm based in Las Vegas.
My name's Hunter. I'm only 25, unfortunately. Originally from the Carolinas, first South Carolina, then North Carolina, and now I live in Las Vegas.
And now I'm getting the phone call.
Beats me.
And so back in, you said December, was it?
Yes, back in December, I think you guys had posted, the job opportunity. Jake and I had a little bit of back and forth on Twitter, enjoyed their videos, had done a little bit of my own like YouTube stuff just for a couple months as like a resume builder for hoping to be in some sort of gaming sphere at one point, whether it's for a company, you guys, whatever it was. Then ended up applying, moved pretty quickly. When I applied, I'd already talked to my wife about it and been like, hey, like if this happens, I would like to move out there. And she was like, yeah, for sure, which is awesome, first of all. But yeah, moved pretty quick after that. Rolled through a few interviews, got out here, and just kind of got dumped into it.
And it's pretty crazy when you think about like the picking up and moving. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts on, the esports and gaming industry. The jobs are hard to come by. Money is not, it's not crazy amounts of money, especially for news outlets, right?
Certainly.
We're just trying to make it work.
Right.
And so it's really cool for me. And especially when it came time we had Twitter interactions, right? There are a lot of people that interact with us on Twitter. That's awesome. It's so fun. And it's so funny to me because that was probably over a year ago where you started interacting with me on Twitter, sending funny memes and videos that you even made yourself. And I was like, yo, this is like, and now you're here.
Right.
It's so freaking weird to me.
It is weird. It's very strange series of coincidences that like ended up working out, which I am very grateful for. But like to think that like, yeah, it was just interactions on Twitter. Obviously, there's a little bit more than that. Like, you can't just interact with us and get a job. But
yeah. Like, of course. Yeah, you sent that one tweet, dude, and I was like, we got to hire this guy
right now. Check.
But it is really cool that you're here, and I'm sure we'll talk more on the podcast about that background, just so you guys know a bit more as well. And it's just, it's wild that as we slowly get into this esports and gaming thing, who else we're going to meet that we interact with on Twitter is going to be a fun time. So
maybe some girls. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know, but maybe.
If they want to come on the show, we would...
Ladies,
we
know you're all listening.
All 1.6% of you. But either way, a little bit of background, though. We'll roll right into the outro. We hope you guys all enjoy the Esports Rewind podcast. Same time, same day, every single week. Make sure to hit us up on all the socials. We both got Twitters. We got Instagram. We got TikTok, YouTube. We got a main website as well. Go check it out. Leave a comment down below what you guys think, and we will catch you guys back here next week. Show them out the door.
Hey, thank you so much.
Show them out the door.
We appreciate it. The door?
That way.